And we are officially live. Welcome everybody to the Church Web Design for Beginners live stream. My name is Matt.
And my name is Michael.
And we are both really excited to talk to you about how to build a great church website. Yep. This is less about the how to use the Church Connect platform and more about the actual core principles of making your website a good representation of your church and a good first impression for newcomers and guests and just people in your community.
Yeah.
So excited. We got
a lot.
Great. Yeah. Michael's like, I don't even know what to say. I'm so excited. We have a lot planned for you today. We've got a lot of ground to cover. This is going to be a very dense 45 to 60 minute session where we're going to walk through branding and the basic principles of how to make a good first impression. And we'll even showcase a website that does a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about. Yeah. So we'll give you a good example. And at the end, we'll wrap up with some pro tips and a time of Q&A. I will do my best to keep an eye on the live chat as we do this and try to bring in some questions from you all as we go. But if I don't worry, we'll have some Q&A time at the very end. Also, some people on our team are going to be in the chat answering questions there. So don't hesitate to jump in and converse with us. We want to make sure that you're taken care of and good to go by the end of this for you to build a great website.
Yes.
I would love to hear from all of you. We do, like I just said, we do have a live chat. I would love to see everybody here join. Let us know your name, your church's name and location, how much snow you're dealing with right now. There's already a lot of people saying, one of you, was it, let me see if I can, Linda, you said that you're up in, I think, Kingston, New York, dealing with 24 inches of snow. That's bananas.
Yeah.
We actually got snow. We're in Florida. I actually saw snow at my house on Sunday.
Amazing.
It just flurried and then it moved on.
Yeah.
And that for us was, oh my goodness, we were flipping out. I can't imagine 2 feet of snow. So hopefully you're staying warm. But we're going to have a really good time. We're going to answer all of your questions and we'll make sure that by the end of this, you will know what it takes to take your website to not just the next level, but just to what it needs to be for your church. Because in the chat earlier, I asked everyone to rate their website on a scale of 1, which is terrible, to 5, which is awesome. And a lot of you are saying 1s and 3s, with a few of you saying, all right, I think mine's a 4 or 4.5. Yeah. But we're going to take all of y'all's from a 1 to a 5 by the end of this workshop. All right, so let's dive in. We're gonna jump into this, but before I jump in, I have a couple things that I want to share with you, some really great resources. We have a YouTube channel that we would love for you to subscribe to. You're watching this on YouTube right now. Go ahead and click the subscribe button to stay up to date on everything we put there. A lot of how-to and instructional videos that deal with your entire ChurchTrac account, but lots of content on church websites and how to use Church Connect to its fullest potential. So it's a great resource. Why don't you tell them about the Facebook group?
I would love to. So the Facebook group is a really great opportunity for you guys to connect with other users of ChurchTrac. People love to answer questions, and it's really just a great place to just ask questions if you have a quick question about websites or if you want to see just different websites. People love to share their work there. So it's really a good opportunity just to connect with people. And it's the place to be.
The place to be if you're using ChurchTrac. And last but not least, we have an awesome support team. Show them how to reach out to the support team, Michael.
I would love to. Yes. So we have in your ChurchTrac account at the very top right here, you should have the ability to, I can't zoom in, which is fine. You should see this orange button at the top right of your screen. And if you click help, you will see some support topics. It says show all help topics, or you can reach out to our support team and it says ask us a question, and you could submit a support ticket there. Our team would love to connect with you and give you a call if you ask for it. We would love to serve you that way.
Perfect. All right. So now that we've got all that housekeeping out of the way, we're going to dive in. Like I said earlier, we got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to talk about branding. We'll talk about church website design principles. We'll showcase a website just to give you a really good example of what these principles look like in action. And then we'll hit some pro tips in a time of Q&A. So buckle up. Let's dive in. Yeah. We have to start with branding. Yeah. building a welcoming church website, building just a very good representation of your church begins with your church's branding. It's your North Star when it comes to designing your website.
Right.
Now, Michael here, the reason why I brought him into this live stream is because this guy right here has built hundreds, just last year, hundreds of church websites. Right. I think it was like 250.
I believe over,
Something crazy. This guy is the reason we're doing this. He's the one with the knowledge base. So why don't you tell them, just give us some pointers on what makes good branding and how it's applied to a church website.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the big part of branding for church is going to be your color palettes.
Yeah.
Honestly. So there are a few things. Something like your logo and your color palette are really the two big things that are going to be, that really affect the way that people view your website and your branding in general. Maybe not on your website, but other signage that you might have for your church.
Everything. Yeah.
So that's going to be, you really want a cohesive color palette that's going to show off, maybe something about, the area that you live in, or just, something that conveys what's going on in your church.
Well, instead of keeping it in the abstract, just talking about a palette, I put together a palette for this video. So why don't you pull it up and tell me if I did a good job or not.
Okay, well, let's see. This is a surprise to me. I haven't seen it yet. Ooh, very nice. I like it, Matt. Very earthy.
Are these good?
But then, yes, absolutely. This is wonderful. So there are a few things here that I really notice off the top. You have two really nice, subtle, muted colors. Okay. So we have like these two oranges here that we have neutral. Muted, we have neutral colors, like this lighter, almost white sand dune color, as it says there, and then a dark coffee, kind of a darker color to use for like your text. And then I would use this white for like your background, but these other colors are great as well for like accents.
I wanted contrast. So the blues, oranges, and reds.
Absolutely, yes.
I felt like they went well. So did I do a good job?
You did an awesome job, yeah.
Okay.
And how easy was it, Matt, to put this together?
Well, it was super easy. I used this website that Michael is on is called Coolers. We're not endorsed by them. We don't, there's no like sponsorship here. We're not affiliated with them in any way. This is just a tool that I have found that has been really useful. Actually, a pastor of a church that I was serving at, a church plant, he used this for his church's branding, and he's what told me about Coolers. Yeah. It's a great tool. Just check it out. The reason why it's great is because I didn't have to think through this palette. The machine, like the program, understands color combos. So you can go there and literally just hit, like there's a button that just says start the palette generator, and you just hit your space bar until it gives you really good color combos that you like. It's just that easy. Just you hitting the space bar until you see something you like. So definitely check that out. If you don't have a color palette for your church, that's at least a great place to start, is coolers.co. That's the website. Just wanted to let you all know. But a color palette is critical for, it's going to guide your decisions in designing and building your website. And this way, the reason why having something like a palette already laid out is critical is just because that way you're not dealing with choosing between infinite numbers of choices when building your website. You have guidance, you have some restrictions, you have a lane to stay in. So make sure that you either have like your church's color palette in front of you before you get started on building your website, or if you have a website, audit it and make sure your branding is consistent. Or third option, start building a church, like a color palette for your church if you don't have one. All right, so that's the color palette. We also need to talk about the logo.
Yes.
So what do we need to cover when it comes to a logo for a church, at least when it comes to the website specifically?
Absolutely. The biggest thing for making a logo for your website is going to be the aspect ratio. And typically when you have your logo, you want to have it somewhere like in your nav bar, and in ChurchTrac, that's the place to put it. This is where people are going to kind of get an idea of your brand identity and get to know who you are as a church. And so having a wider aspect ratio for things like the nav bar will make it look nicer and much cleaner and fit better. And
this will make a little more sense when we get a little further along. We'll show you what he's talking about. But I created a couple of logos. Are you able to pull them up?
Absolutely. Let's do that real quick.
I created a couple of logos to illustrate this. One, when Michael's talking about aspect ratio, what he means is your logo needs to be horizontally oriented for the logo that you're putting in the nav bar needs to be horizontally oriented as opposed to vertically oriented with like the badge or icon at the top and text below. It needs to have the image to the left. I should probably start over here. Image to the left and then the words proceeding to the right from there. So if you have a logo for your church that's horizontally oriented, that's the one you need to use for your church's website. Otherwise, if you don't have that, you need to reach out to whoever created the logo and design that yourself. So Michael has an example up right now of what I'm going to say a horizontally oriented logo is with the icon above and text below. You need to make sure that that icon is to the left and the text is to the right so that it's horizontal. It's longer than it is tall. That's what he meant by the aspect ratio. So just make sure you have that. In fact, I'm not telling you can't have the horizontal, like this is a great logo. This is a fine logo for a church to have.
Yes.
This is the kind of logo I'm talking about for your church's navigation bar. At the very top of your website, in the top left-hand corner, it needs to look like this. The reason why is because the navigation bar has very little real estate to work with. You can't make it taller. You need to make it wider so it fits within such a narrow space. So make sure you have this kind of logo. In fact, have multiple different types of your logo. Have both the vertically oriented and the horizontally oriented logo. Have your logo with color, one of your brand colors in the icon, and then also have like a monochrome version of your logo where it's all white or all black. That way you can put that over like a darker light background and it still stands out.
Yes.
And also, there's different things you can do with your logos, and you're going to use your church's logo across multiple different mediums like social media, print, like on brochures and flyers, the signage outside. Then you also have your website. Each of those different mediums requires a different kind of a different approach to the logo and a different type of logo. Yeah. So at least when it comes to, just to bring it back, when it comes to web design, it's best to have a horizontally oriented logo with your icon or badge on the left, or even no icon and badge and just have your text, rather than to have that vertically oriented one, just because it's not going to look good. It's not going to stand out and be legible on your church's website.
Yeah, I've seen a few times where churches will kind of put together a logo and it's in that badge shape and it just doesn't look very good. They're trying to add, and maybe we'll get into this in a little bit more, but I think it's really a big part of like doing your branding and building your website. People will have this circular badge logo and try to add more information onto that logo, which you're really not going to see in your nav bar. So build something that's, like as Matt said, just to reinforce, build something that's more horizontally based with your church name, and then maybe a little part of your logo is something that represents your church.
Yeah. Now, last thing to mention when it comes to like color palettes and logos, while Michael has the color palette up right now, you'll see at the bottom of each color is a large number. It's like letters and numbers. That's called a hex code. Those are your friend. Whenever you have, whatever palette you have for your church, you need to know what the hex codes are for each color, or the hex code is for each color. Each color just has one code. The reason why is because this will allow you to be precise with the colors you add to your website. Because whatever web builder you're using, even if it's not Church Connect, it's going to ask you what colors you're using, or it's going to give you the opportunity to like be specific with a color. And most of these website builders allow you to enter a hex code to be specific with what exact color you want to add to that part of the website. So make sure you know what the hex codes are to your color palette. Coolers gives it to you. But obviously, whatever tool you're using, or if you went with a branding agency, they should give that to you as well. Yes. So that across the web, on your website, social media, everywhere, you can be specific with the colors you're adding. So from there, let's talk about, there's one more thing. Goodness gracious, there's another thing that we need to talk about when it comes to branding, and that is the pictures you're using. I know this seems a little... Like when you brought this up to me, that you need to think about the photos you're adding to the website as part of your branding.
Yes.
I just thought those were photos. Like I'm a photographer. I don't think of it as branding. I think of it as photography. Yeah. So when it comes to the images you add to your church's website, that's also part of your church's branding. It's how because what is branding? How if you would just give a succinct definition of branding, what is that?
Yeah. So branding is really what how people can identify your church or your organization and what you guys are trying to do, essentially.
It's like how you're visually conveying who you are. Yes. And so the photos of your people worshiping, smiling, fellowshipping, studying the Bible, everything that your church does, photos of people doing those things is part of the branding of your church. So make sure that you have some good quality photos of worship service, of people in the welcome area greeting each other, of people smiling and laughing and doing the things that everyone at your church does on a week-to-week basis, so that you can put that on the website and have a really good representation of what a person will experience if they visit and become a member of your faith community. Yeah. So you need to have good photos of your people. That's just kind of and also just as a little pro tip, make sure the photos represent a good cross section of your people. I say that just basically what I've seen a lot of church websites have is just pictures that were taken at a single event. Somebody took a lot of pictures at one event and then uploaded those to the website, and that was it. But that event could have targeted a specific group, like just the women, or just the men, or just the older members, or just the kids. And so therefore, it's not really a good representation of everybody that attends. So make sure that there's a pretty good spread in the photos that you're adding to your church's website. Yeah. Great. So that's everything that you need to have laid out ahead of time, just even before you begin creating a website, right? Yeah. Let's go ahead. We've talked a lot about branding. There's a few other notes that we may get to a little bit later, but I want to make sure we move forward so we can cover the actual design of a church website and how to make it great. So let's talk about the principles behind good church web design. Let's do it. So number one is, this is something that you and I discussed, over the past couple of days, is the concept of the above the fold section of a website. Yep. This is a term that some of you probably know what above the fold comes from. It comes from the era of print newspapers. Newspapers would be folded up in the newsstand, and everything above the fold, the top half of that front page, had to really stand out and get your attention so that you would purchase the newspaper. You have to have the same exact approach to your church's website. There is an above the fold online. What is above the fold? Yeah, above the fold is going to be anywhere really the place that people land on your website. And this is going to be essentially the header. This includes the nav bar, your header or hero, like we like to call it in ChurchTrac. Yeah. And then also maybe a little section underneath that, depending on the size of your header. Yeah. So anything that they land on when they visit your website. Do you have a website up right now? I do. I have the Potential Church pulled up. And I think so go ahead and scroll up to the top. So when someone lands on your website, the first thing they're going to see is the nav bar, the header hero section, and depending on the size of the screen, they may see a little bit below that. That's the above the fold, because this is the first thing that somebody sees when they go to your church's website. Here's the thing. People will subconsciously judge your church's website in fractions of a second, microseconds, and they've already made decisions, even if they're not conscious of it. They have a gut reaction to your church's website. And your church's website is people's first impression of your church now. People will, I think a study I read said that around it's over 80% of people who visit your church have already visited your church's website. They see your website first before they step through the front door of your church. So your website is the first impression now. There is no longer, I know there's a lot of churches will have a first impressions team. It's the greeters out by the front. That's not the first impression anymore. No. Not anymore. It's the website. It's social media. It's your podcast or YouTube channel or your online footprint. Yeah. So this has to really grab people. This has to give them a really positive impression of your church and tell them very quickly that your church is everything that they're looking for. So we have to think through and spend a lot of time. If you spent 50% of all the time you spend building your website just on the header section and what's immediately below that, it will have been worth that balance of time, because this is everything. Yep. So what makes a really good above the fold on a church's website, Michael? Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the first thing that comes to mind with above the fold is going to be your hero image and how you portray your church and your people
and what you guys do at your church, right? Like, you want people to know that you are, that you have people involved in whether you guys focus on doing Bible studies or, you have a big emphasis on your worship service. You want to be able to portray that and to show people worshiping. Like, for example, here on the Potential website, we have somebody worshiping with their hands lifted, raised, showing that, you guys have a church full of people that just love to worship. And I think that's a huge part of your identity as a church and, part of branding as well. But you don't want to go, you can have pictures of something like your building on your website, and that's fine. But I would say focus on...
Not in the hero section.
Not in the hero section. Avoid it at all costs if you can. Have pictures of your people as the hero image there.
Yeah. We see it all the time. Churches will have, you land on their website, and the first thing you see is a picture of the church building. Your church there's nothing wrong with your church building, and there's nothing wrong with putting pictures of your church building on the website, just not here in the top section, in the hero or header section. The reason why is because, first of all, people already know what your church building looks like. They drive by it all the time. They've seen it before. They don't need to know what it looks like. The second reason is the reason they're like, you have to put yourself in the mindset of someone who isn't a part of your church, has never been there before. What are they wanting to, why are they going to your website? It's to learn more about your church. They want to know what it's like if they come and visit, which means that they want to see what's inside the church. They want to see the people. They want to see the ministries. They want to see like the sanctuary and just kind of know what to expect. So you have to put that information into your website. So don't put your church's building front and center as people's first impression. Put people as their first impression. So people worshiping, people fellowshipping and hugging and smiling and laughing and studying the Bible and just doing all the things that they need to do or that they do on a week-to-week basis. Put those things there above the fold. That way, I think it's more relatable too.
Absolutely.
Seeing people having a positive experience, that's what I want. I want to have that. Yeah. So I'm going to check out this church even further.
Absolutely. When
I see that in the header section.
Yeah. I think we were talking about it yesterday, but the importance of back in the day, you used to go to a church and you would see the vision of that, as you're visiting and seeing people, congregate at the entrance of your church, but now you're going to a website where you're experiencing that through a digital lens, a digital platform, instead of seeing it in person. And as for somebody that's younger, that's really my experience. And sometimes it's difficult to get involved. And so when you can portray that what you guys do and how you guys do ministry, that's the best way to do it in your hero.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about ministries a little bit later and how you can use that on your website as well. One thing that you shared with me, this is just using this is you sharing your expertise. You definitely are the one that knows all this. But you told me if you want to really think hard about this and be really strategic about the header section, is if possible, use your church's name as inspiration for the image that goes there.
Yes.
Your example would be something like a church that's, New Life Church, have an image of a baptism there. Yes. Just that's using your entire brain right there when designing your website. So if your church has a name that could inspire some sort of imagery, use that imagery there just to really be cohesive with your branding and the representation that your website provides for your church. Also, let's talk about, now that we've done the headers, the background image, we need to talk about the nav bar too.
Yes.
So you can see in the top left-hand corner is the Potential Church logo. Again, this is just to emphasize what we talked about earlier. The logo you put in the navigation bar needs to be horizontally oriented because the navigation bar is really thin. There's not a lot of space there. So that horizontally oriented logo would look really smushed and tiny. Having it spread out across a wider aspect ratio means that it can stand out better and take up more real estate within the navigation bar. So that's why you need to have that kind of logo for your church. But that's not the only thing in the nav bar. What's up there?
Links.
So what do we need to do? How do we need to think about links?
Yeah. So every link should be justified, right? You need a justification for why you have links in the nav bar. So in ChurchTrac, and this is on purpose, we offer 4 spaces for nav bar links.
Yeah. Only 4 links.
Yeah, only 4 links. And the reason for that is we want to avoid, stacking links and stacking pages for people to visit. And it's overwhelming. Like when you visit a website, you don't want to be overwhelmed by a million different links that you have to click on and try to find information for. You want to have your most important options right up front for people to click on and view.
Yeah. The one thing I'll share my little pet peeve. The thing that like frustrates me when I see a church's website, I'm not calling out names, but is going to a church's website and seeing a long row of links, and almost every single one of them is a drop-down menu with 3 or 4 or 10 other links. Yeah. That's not helpful. I know the thought process. The thought process is we want to make it easy for somebody to navigate our site by putting everything, like a link to every part of our website right there at their fingertips. But now I have to search. I have to look for what I'm looking for. It's not apparent. What you need to do just to really take this website to the next level and make it actually useful for both the community and your church is you need to decide what exactly are the number 1, 2, and 3 things we want people to see or do on the website. And that's it. Just pick your top priorities and put those top priorities in the navigation bar. And that's all. That's it. You're done. You can check that off off the list. All right, so that's the navigation bar. And like Michael said, every single link there needs to justify itself. Don't just put a give button there just because you think that's a good idea. Put it there because people are looking for it and they want easy access to it. Something like a give button can even could put some people off. Yeah. They see that and think, oh, this church is just out here for money. That's their priority, really? Yeah. Some people will actually think that. You can't win with everyone, but you still have to think through what exactly is the most important thing that you want people to do and the most important things that people are looking for on your website and link there, no matter what that is.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a bad idea to, have things like that, like giving in your nav bar all the time. But
it's not wrong.
But there are other places on your website that you can put those options for people to respond through. So if people want to respond in giving, that's it's a big part of church. A lot of churches is giving, and that's not the main focus. Obviously, it's the Lord and growing in discipleship. But you want to give people an opportunity to respond. So connecting. Giving, but what's your priority, right? That's what you want to put in your nav bar. Yeah. And then down the page is where you can add other ways for people to respond.
Yeah. Now that we've got our nav bar ironed out, another point or tip about a nav bar is this is an opportunity for you to add your branding color. So don't just leave it the default of whatever your website builder does, especially Church Connect. You can add your church's color to it. So add either a dark color or a very light color at the top so that you can then add some contrast on top of it with your links and your logo. Right. So make sure that you add your branding color throughout your website, use that palette, leverage it, and make sure your website is cohesive with that. And now that we've got that nav bar and the hero image, let's talk about some text over that. Because this website has a little tagline and a call to action. So when it comes to that top section, what is the best thing to put there for most churches?
Yeah, it's a great question. You're going to want a call to action here. People, when you go to a website, sometimes it's not always the first thought to go to the nav bar and click a link there. But if you can have information, maybe like your church's name, and by the way, this is great for SEO, which is search engine optimization. Yeah. Having your church name in your header is wonderful. Having a little snippet of what your church is about, something like a headline, is great in your hero or header. This gives the search engine like Google the opportunity to index your page, pull that information, and put it in the search results for your church, which is great. And then you also want to have a call to action for people to respond right there if they like what they see. Yeah. They're like we've talked about, people are making a decision about your church in the first split second that they enter your page. Yeah. So give them the opportunity to get involved in your church. For example, on here we have plan your visit. We're giving people the opportunity to learn more about how they can get involved with your church or where they can find you guys.
Yeah.
If they see what they like, they see people worshiping.
And also what to expect, like what kind of clothes, what kind of, where do I drop the kids off? Where do I park? Yeah. That kind of stuff. Right. All things that like my generation, we like to know these things just to alleviate our anxiety for that first visit, because we just already know what to do and what to expect. So that way we can do it and move on and not have to be like, is this the right place to? No, we're done. We park, we walk in, we know what to expect and what's going to happen. Yeah. So that's the above the fold concept when it comes to a website. I know we spent like 15 minutes just talking about the above the fold. You're going to end up spending a lot of time designing the above the fold portion of your church's website. And that's worthwhile because, again, people are making snap judgments, but the call to action leads us to realize that there's this order of, I don't know how to describe it. There's like a process that people go through when they land on a website. If they've checked out your church's online presence and they think, I want to learn more, they go to your website. If they go to your website and they have a positive first impression, they'll think, I want to learn more. So they'll click on whatever that button is, plan a visit, learn more about us, beliefs, or something like that. Yeah. So there's like this order of, I like this, I want to know more. They'll click that and they'll go a little further from there and there until they actually pay a visit.
Yes.
Not everyone will do that, but the ones that are willing to do that, you need to have your website filled with the information that those people are looking for so that they will actually reach the end of that journey, which is walking through the front door of your church. So that's the above the fold section. Let's talk about the one scroll rule. Yeah. That's like the next step in this whole process.
Yes.
So what is the one scroll rule?
Yes. So the one scroll rule is where when you go to somebody's website, they make they're making their decision in that split second. The next thing that they're going to do is they're going to want to scroll down. So the one scroll rule is literally taking your finger, tapping the phone, swiping up and giving it one scroll, or if you're on your computer, maybe a swipe with your finger or scroll down. This is going to be big for, information about your church, a quick snippet. You don't want, an entire paragraph that's going to overwhelm people with things to read. You just want people to see what's going on at your church. So if you can provide them for example, on the potential church page, in this one little scroll that we have here, we have a little more information about the church. Mm-hmm. And so no matter what life stage you're in, there's a small group for you. Simple but effective way to tell people what your church is about and what you guys do. Another portion of this is more than a church, it's community. You're giving people a short snippet of that without giving them too much to digest.
Yeah. So it does need to be in little bite-sized chunks just to make it easier for people to grab a hold of. These are little footholds and handholds as they climb.
Yes. You
need something really easy for them to grab onto.
Yeah.
But also the one scroll rule is like you illustrated just by scrolling real quick. That's what that person is looking for has to be contained in that one scroll. So that's part of the reason why in ChurchTrac we designed Church Connect to be built on cards, because you can pack a lot into that space through your cards.
Correct.
Did you have a website that you wanted to showcase? Because I think you actually designed that website yourself. And it's a really excellent showcase of having everything in that one scroll because of the way you oriented those cards.
Let me see if I can get it pulled up really quickly.
Yeah. If you can have like all the information that somebody is looking for within a very quick, easy access. That's what a nav bar is for. It's part of what the call to action is for, and also the one scroll rule is for. If you can just in one swipe have links to everything that they're looking for, it makes it more likely that that person is going to take another step on that website, which is to check out your ministries page or click the plan a visit button or learn more about your beliefs, like look at your belief statements or something like that to make sure that everything's aligned for them. So you got this website for New Life Baptist Church.
Yes.
Again, this isn't like an endorsement or affiliation. This guy right here just made this website for them, and he applied all the principles we're talking about today to this website. So it's a really great example of what your church's website can look like and do.
Correct.
But if you are on this website and you scroll a short distance, why don't you do that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
In a short little scroll, go a little further.
Yep.
There. So all the core top level things that any person visiting a website for the first time are looking for, it's all right there. About us, what we believe, connect or contact us, plan a visit, take the next steps, missions and outreach. Everything that I'm looking for, that I want to know more about for a church that I'm like looking into, those are the things I'm going to.
Yeah.
That's what I'm jumping straight to after that first impression.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note that this is why you don't necessarily need a million links in your navigation bar.
Yeah.
Right. This is another opportunity for people to, explore your website. So in the one scroll rule, I typically say, have your cards in an area, not all the way at the bottom of your page, but more towards the top where people can respond and explore your website more. Like, for example, about our church, learn more about our church, our latest messages. These are ways that people can respond and links to like secondary pages or pages they may be outside of your website that, about what you guys believe.
Yeah. So here's just a quick thought, a little experiment to run on your website. If you were to visit your church's website, whether it's on Church Connect or another platform, and you were, let's say, just give yourself something that you need to look up, like a ministries page or an About Us page or something like that. Go to your church's website and try to navigate to that page. And if it takes you more than 5 seconds to do so, then you need to rearrange and reconstruct your website to make it easier. Because if it takes you 5 seconds to find it, it's going to take a newbie 30 seconds. And if it takes them that long to find something that they're looking for, they're going to quit before they get to it. So do a quick audit on your website. Maybe even have, if you're super familiar with your website, you can navigate anywhere really fast. But go to somebody who doesn't go to your website or doesn't even go to your church. Find like friends and family outside of your church and just give them your website and say, hey, can you give them a list of things to look up, and how quickly did it take you to find those things? And if it took them too long, or if it took them a long time to find it, then you probably need to go back and reconstruct some things and rearrange some stuff just to make sure that you've prioritized things properly. All right, that's a little tip. And another thing. When it comes to the content you add to your website, this is critical. One thing that I see a lot in websites is that the people that design and add all the pages and build the content in the site, they were more like aspirational with the site than they were realistic with it. And it's a little hard to explain, but what I mean by that is I've seen websites that have a ton of pages with a lot of well-intended content, but half the pages have nothing on them because they thought to themselves, I'll get to that later, and they never did. But also, the more you add, the more there is to maintain. And it's just a lot of work to do that. Instead, add content that people in your community are trying to learn about a church before they visit. And for the majority of people, that's something like a plan a visit, About Us, Beliefs page, connect with us, and ministries, so that they know what is going on at the church. Right. Those are like the big things that non-members, people in your community, are wanting to know more about your church before they pay a visit. So make sure you add those secondary things like pages and other content to your site, and make sure those things are linked either in the nav bar, the call to action, or in that one scroll. So it's really easy for people to get to the meat of what they're trying to get to at your church. Yep. But then there's also tertiary things like meet the staff. If somebody's gone through that first impression, the one scroll, they've clicked on something and they still like what they see on that first secondary page that they've seen, well, now they're ready to go even further. They want to know who works here and what they look like and what they're like. So having like a meet the staff with quick little bios is a good idea. Yeah. Also, a link to past sermons, whether that's hosted on the website or you're just linking to a podcast or a YouTube page, stuff like that for people to really invest in looking into your church. Because I'll say this, the way I have looked at and looked for a new church has always been to think through recommendations, ask for recommendations, but I'll first go to their website. I'll get that first impression, and it's always a gut reaction, even for us professionals. But then I'll go to a beliefs page and a ministries page, and then I'll look at staff. And By then, I am listening to sermons before I come. I'll listen to 1 or 2 or 3 sermons just to make sure I understand what they teach.
Right. But your gut reaction isn't to go, to the sermons page first, because it's not, because you want to learn more about the church before you actually go and start looking at sermons, or even looking at, getting to know who the pastors are or the people that are working at the church. They need to know more about the church, as a whole before they go to these other pages like sermons or meet the team or, even connecting. They want to know more about your church.
Yeah. Another cool thing to think through is with your website, especially with your secondary pages. These are all, I'm not going to go deep on this, but these are all opportunities for search engine optimization to improve the likelihood that your church's website reaches the top of a Google search when someone in your area is looking for a church in their area. So make sure you have secondary pages that have a good header section, a good title at the top of the page, and then like your ministries page, honestly, is a great opportunity for. There's a lot of real estate there for SEO content. So you could have like a page that lists all of your ministries, but also links to individual pages for each ministry. And at the top of that like specific ministry page, you could have, a college ministry in Jacksonville or something like that. And then a men's ministry in or your neighborhood or your town, whatever. That way, like really having those really specific titles and adding all of that to your website makes it more likely when someone in your area is looking for something specific, like men's ministry in Jacksonville, if they type that into a search bar, Google knows, they've actually got information about this. I'm going to put this one at the very top. So your secondary pages can also grab searches and pull people into your website more so than just your main page. But that does require that you think through those secondary pages and make them look awesome too. To have a header section and maybe even a background image. To have, a good text and tagline at the very top so Google can read that and understand what that page is about.
That's right.
And then below that, some good photos, some decent copy with bite-sized information that will grab people's attention and invite them in. That's
perfect.
It seems like a lot, but eat this elephant one bite at a time. You don't have to have the whole thing done in a day, and you don't have to have the whole thing done all at once either. If you want to make a really good landing page and then those top level, like those top 3 pages that you want people to see, make those first, and then next week do the secondary pages and the tertiary pages. That's a fine approach as well. But do it as best as you can. Do it at the highest level that you possibly can so that you make that good first impression and people are more likely to visit after they see your website.
And I think it's a great opportunity to kind of plug, how easy our website builder really is. I mean, the templates that we have, that we offer, gives you guys an opportunity to build a website in a quick, short amount of time. So if you check out the previous live stream that we did last week, I'm in even other, live streams that we've done about Church Connect, it gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more about how the website builder works, which therefore, will make it so that it takes less time to build your website. And I think that will give you a better perspective and just an easier time making a beautiful website.
Now, there's another thing to think through for web design, and that's like spacing and other things you do in the various sections of a given page. And this is where you really shine. Way more, way more about this than I do. So I'm going to let you take over for this.
I would love to. So in our ChurchTrac account for Potential Church, we're going to navigate to Church Connect on the left side, page setup at the top. And this is where you're going to access all and any of your secondary pages. This is just the home page. And so you can access your secondary pages here, kind of at the top left to edit them. And then you can scroll down and you'll have the opportunity to edit your different sections. For example, if you'll have a few different options here. So you can you have this drag bar, so you can drag this down and go up and down. Yes, and move those sections around. You'll also have this opportunity, and this is what I was mentioning earlier, is you have an add content button, and this will give you the ability to use a template. So you'll see the few different options here to add a template with a call to action and with some information about your church that we already have pre-input in there for you, and just other templates of for your hero or with a map. This gives you the opportunity to just build a beautiful website in a quick, short amount of time. Other than that, you have section options. And I think this is a big thing that people miss out on quite often. This helps with, and this is one thing we were talking about, Matt, is spacing on a website. It's really critical to space your content out so people aren't again, overwhelmed by the amount of content that they're seeing, or like visually, maybe it's not even the content, but visually overwhelmed and overstimulated by the different things on your page.
Me personally, like we were emphasizing earlier the importance of having information in bite-sized chunks. Having greater space between each section helps, like, it just gives the impression that it helps make that text feel like a bite-sized piece of info, rather than if you like squish everything together, it's all stacked pretty tight and it just feels overwhelming and it seems like it's a lot to take in. So by having more white space, it's just more pleasing to the eye. It's easier to take in the information. It does invite more scrolling. So adding padding above and below any given section on the website, you can take it to the extreme, and I don't recommend that, but the more padding generally the better on your website. So definitely keep that in mind. And thank you, Michael, for pointing that out and making sure we all understand that.
You're very welcome.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to show them, a couple different ways that they can kind of format their website. I think it would be beneficial for them to see. I don't know if we showed it off last time, but I think it would be beneficial. So if we could go to that section again, hover the section and click section options, you'll see a few different options here to change background color. So let's go with a lighter color that kind of differentiates and gives the section a little more space to breathe and some room visually to look at. So let's set that. And then we can also add a little bit of section padding to bring the pieces together a little bit further, to show that edge of the background a little more. And let's add a little bit of bottom margin to separate those two sections that we have here. And let's go ahead and apply. And awesome, there we go. We have a section that has a background color now. It's delineated from the other parts of your website, but it's still visually pleasing because you have some white space, gray space now when you're looking at it, but something that really looks clean, call to action still, but now you have more space between this section that you're building underneath.
So this is a great opportunity to leverage your brand palette, your color palette. It ties it, like it makes your visual identity even more cohesive by adding your color palette to various sections of your website, by adding it to the buttons, just to add that little bit of, like, the orange buttons on this website, add some color pop to the experience. It's just very attractive and pleasing to the eye to have stuff like that. And also by having that, it also like draws that button to your attention and makes you want to click on it. So having white space and adding your brand palette to various sections of your website, just when a website does that well, that's when I know they've got it all together. When they can nail, when any website, church or not, can nail that, that's when I know, like, they know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
If they can manage that.
Yeah.
So that's the section options. Was there anything there? Oh, well, the code view is like one thing that we need to at least point out. We're not going to go in depth on this, but in ChurchTrac, in Church Connect, you do have, if you know your way around some HTML code, we do give you the code view. So in a section, you can click that little keyboard icon in the toolbar above that section. And in the following window, you have more control over the section text, but there is also a code viewer. So if you know your way around HTML, you have like strong control. That's actually what you leveraged for that New Life Baptist website.
I did.
So you were able to design some really cool sections for that website because you know code.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know some code.
Yeah, definitely be careful when you're adding HTML content or trying to do things on your own. Do a little research before you get into it. Things can break when you get into the nitty gritty on this. So if you have questions, go ahead and do a little bit of research. Look up HTML if you want to learn this yourself. And you can really make a beautiful page out of this. It adds, you can add flavor and just make a more in-depth website, to be honest with you.
Last but not least, we need to talk about footers. So the nav bar is critical because that's part of your first impression. You've got your logo. You've got like the top 3 things that you want linked to or want people to see and do on the website. But the footer offers more opportunities for more links. And also some other critical things. So why don't you talk us through how to make a really good footer on our website?
I would love to. I would love to show them an example, especially in this New Life Baptist webpage. So here, obviously, we have our links at the top, which are great calls to action. But let's say, and Matt, we were talking about this the other day, again, right? If if you're not finding what you're looking for and you know that you're trying to find something, you're going to go straight to the footer because you know everything is linked there.
Yeah. What he's talking about is this is what I do when I go to any website, church or not. I get that first impression and I looked at the nav bar, because typically, like, I know what I'm looking for when I go to a church's website or any website. For a business, like, the things I'm looking for would be like a features page, pricing, and about us. If I don't see the things that I'm looking for in a nav bar on a website, I don't even look at the web page. I just zoom right to the footer, because chances are it's linked there. Yes. So your footer is probably going to be viewed by as many people as visit your website if they go beyond that first impression and they don't just bounce immediately. Because a lot of people are savvy enough to know that there's a lot of really good extra information that they can learn about a church through the footer. And there's also, like, for search engine optimization purposes, Google will index information in your footer and looks to your footer for information about your church. Yeah. So it's critical to, like, build a good footer so that the algorithm knows to put your church higher in a search results for people in your area.
Yeah, and Google will even index the links that could be in your footer as well and use those as options for secondary pages that you could click through, which gives, you know, a great opportunity to show off other pages other than just the main page of your website. And
so
especially
scroll.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's show them the way.
Yeah, there we go.
Beautiful. We're leveraging brand colors here for the headers. You have, you know, other things like phone numbers, emails, addresses, and then we have our quick links, which gives people another opportunity to find what they're looking for, right? So we have connect with us. Yes, we have that in the nav bar, but like we said, we're limited purposefully to the 4 links in the nav bar. So we have, for example, here, previous sermons, take next steps, missions and outreach, just other opportunities for people to navigate your website.
Perfect. But to the right is something really, really important to point out, and something that you all need to be adding to your church's website and the footer, and that is the Google Map. The reason why is because this will at least give a little bit of a boost to your church's search engine optimization, because this is a Google product. Google likes seeing Google stuff on websites. It's just a little bonus. But also, by adding it, we recommend you put it in the footer and not just the landing page of your site, because by adding it to the footer, your footer appears on every page of your church's website. By having a Google Map in the footer, you're putting a Google Map across your entire website.
Yes.
And that Google likes that.
Yeah. And we were just talking about this earlier with Wes, our boss, how Google has slowly become more mature and looking for map-oriented. So when you search for a church or you're searching for an organization, Google Maps is like 80% of the time, I don't know the exact number, it's my best guess, of the amount of times that people are just brought to Google Maps to view that business. It's kind of insane. So people aren't even seeing, most of the time your church or the business on like the landing page or the search page. They're actually seeing it on the map.
More and more people are starting a search on Google Maps than they are on Google's search engine.
Right.
So having your church, having a Google business profile for your church is really critical. Having that profile up to date with accurate like phone number and open hours open and email address and web address, and also having lots of good photos there and your members rating your church positively and leaving a written rating and stuff like that, a written review, I mean. All of that is really, really important for your church's visibility online. And then when you have that pin on Google Map for your church, then add a Google Map in the footer of your website. Church Connect, we have a template that you can just inject that Google Map into the footer just to make that really easy. So you don't even have to know coding and you don't have to know anything. You just choose that footer, type in your church's physical address, and the map updates for you. That's all it takes.
Yes. Another thing to point out, social media is a great way to also interact with your congregants and even newcomers to see more about your church. And you don't want to have all of your images on your website. You just want to give people a snapshot. But if you want to link to your Instagram or your Facebook with people communicating and your community actually gathering and showing people what you're about is a great way to do that. And I would love to show them really quickly. So if you're in the footer and you click Edit Footer, which is in the section when you hover it and you click social. This gives you the opportunity to add your social media links, which is great for leading people to, community with your church.
Yeah. So that's the tips for the footer. And speaking of tips, now that we've gone through a website from top to bottom and shared all of the core principles, let's get into the pro tips so that we have enough time to do some Q&A here at the very end. Because I know that there's been some questions. Our team has been doing a great job answering them, but I know there's a few that we haven't gotten to, so we'll get to them soon. Pro tip number 1 is the simpler the better. Honestly, you don't need to tell everyone everything about your church in the website. You just need to create a good first impression. And like we were emphasizing earlier about bite-sized chunks of info, that's the best way to convey and get people in through the door is to just give them the key things that they're looking for, and then they can visit and learn the rest about your church. But however, if you add secondary pages beyond that main landing page, that's more opportunity for more information. You can be a little more thorough with what you add there, but that main landing page does need to be really quick, precise bits of information and nothing more.
Yeah. I think it's also good to note that it's not just the information, the word information or, the writing on the website, but it's like the logo, like we talked about.
Yeah.
And the images, make it simple so that people can digest it and, view it and not be, I've said it a million times, but overwhelmed by the content that they're seeing. So in your logo, you don't want to have all of this text that people are going to have to look and try to read as if they're, looking at your entire website in one go. But keep it simple with your logo. Keep it simple with your pictures and the content that's on there. That's on your page.
And then you had a tip about people reviewing your site.
Yes.
So what should people do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So have people, and I think you hit on this earlier, right? Of people reviewing the website, but have people that outside of the church, friends, family, even non-believers visit your website. And just give you feedback on what you've done, your branding. Is it something that's hurting their eyes when they look at it? Not because you did a bad job, but maybe the branding is a little bit off, which is a great opportunity, as we're talking about this, Matt, to do a rebrand if you need to. If you're building a new website, go ahead and just do a rebrand.
Yeah.
Create a new logo. If you need to pay someone to do it, if you're not great with Canva, or whatever, it's a good opportunity to rebrand, get new colors from coolers, and just integrate that with your new website.
Perfect. And then last but not least, we recommend that you design your website for non-members more than for your church. And what I mean by that is it seems counterintuitive. It's your website. It's your church's website. It's built for your church. But really, your website is a resource primarily for people in your community to learn more about your church. So it needs to be for them. It needs to be for people who don't know anything about your church. Your website can be a resource for members to go to, engage with small group Bible study resources and to give online and to do some things, maybe learn about upcoming events and stuff. But the primary purpose of a website is to be a digital billboard for people who don't attend your church. So the information you add there needs to have those people in mind first, more so than the people who do go to your church. All right, those are the pro tips. That was the meat of what we prepared for you today. We're going to dive into the Q&A now and make sure that your questions are answered. While you think through and type out some questions for us, I want to remind you all to subscribe to the YouTube channel. This live stream will be on the channel. It's on the channel now, but it'll be there for you to rewatch within 30 minutes or so after we're done today. So subscribe to the YouTube channel to rewatch this, watch all past live streams, and join future live streams. And also watch all the other videos we put out there. We've got hundreds of videos, so lots of stuff that you could watch there. Also, we have a Facebook group that you can join. I'll drop the link into the chat for the Facebook group again so that you all can see that. Click on that link. If you use ChurchTrac, we would love for you to join that community where you can ask other users questions, get some inspiration for how to build. You can even go and ask churches to share their Church Connect page, and they love to show it off. So you can get some really good inspiration for what you can add to your website. And also, our support team is here for you anytime. Reach out to us in a support ticket, request a phone call, whatever you prefer. Reach out, just let us know what your questions are, and we want to serve you to help you build the body of Christ.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. If you guys would like, we would also love to plug our new little rubber duckies that we actually got in today, which is really great. And you should see them on the desk here. We got our ducks in a row. We have our ducks in a row here at ChurchTrac. But this is a great opportunity to connect with us, and we'd love to connect with you. If you email us at live@churchtrac.com, you could have a chance to get one of these beautiful little orange things.
Fun little duckies.
Yes.
Our ChurchTrac duckies. All right. So yeah, send that email to us. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you learned from this live stream, just something new that you learned. And also give us some pointers. Let us know what we could have done better, because we always want to do better and make this exactly what you need it to be, so that you can get the most out of your time with us. All right. Let's go ahead. Oh, and our boss Wes wants everyone to know these ducks are limited edition. This is a very rare item, apparently, which it is. I think they just arrived yesterday.
They did today.
Oh, today.
I grabbed them from the front porch.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so these are brand new, fresh out the box. All right, let's go ahead and tackle a few questions, because I know that you all have been chomping at the bit and dropping some questions in, and I know that we haven't answered everything yet. All right, so Larry, you asked, is it possible to design a whole new site and not publish, so that we can make these recommended changes to show leadership before going live? Yes. The way it works, though, and Michael, you can kind of illustrate this while I talk about it. So in Church Connect, whenever you're adding a section or making changes to any part of the website, as you're making those changes, there's a little toggle switch at the top that says Published to Web. And if Michael can zoom in a little bit to make sure that you can see that. That right now is toggled on, which means that section is live. Anyone going to the website can see that. He just turned it off now, which removes it. So your name was Larry. Larry, you can add things and make changes and do stuff and it not be published. It'll like our site will wait for you to toggle that on. But you can still, in the Church Connect page in ChurchTrac, as the editor itself, you can still have that content there to show your leadership, so they can see it before they approve it, and then it's published. So that's the process with doing that in Church Connect. Thank you very much for asking. I don't know the person's name. PDAVEP asked, how do you link a sentence or word, image or card? How to embed a link? Also, how do you keep a linked page from leaving your site? And how do you make a motion bubble like a wobble or a jiggle? When it comes to like linking things, it's pretty simple. You can add what's called a link card in Church Connect, which is just one of the main cards. You can make a link to something else online. But also, if you want to make a hyperlink within the text, you would have to do that within the text editor. You can do that in Church Connect, but you have to open up the text editor in that section and then either open up the code view and add that link there, or I think you can add a link just in that main text editor, can't you?
You can. So what I would recommend is that you use a button. So in your, if we want to switch over to the builder, there is the option to add a button. So if you click the Add Content button here on the left over a section, and then you click Add a Button, you will see that it adds a new button to your section, and it gives you the opportunity to name the button and add the link there. That would be my highest suggestion for anybody that's trying to add a link.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then you also asked, like, how do you make a motion bubble like a wobble or a jiggle?
Yeah, great question. So you can do that if you know a little bit of CSS. We have a custom CSS panel that goes a little bit beyond, and I would love to show you guys. Under Connect Settings here at the top of your page, click that, and you'll see an option here on the left out of these options. It says Custom CSS. This will give you the opportunity to target different HTML elements, classes, attributes to be able to add those different features that you'd like to add to your website. But other than that, this is really not something that our team typically supports. But if you have questions about adding things to your site, please reach out to us. We'd love to give you a hand in building your website out.
Yeah. Juden asked, is the website hosted on ChurchTrac? Yes, though at least the ones that we've shown you. Your ChurchTrac account comes with a feature called Church Connect. that is a website builder, a smartphone app, and a member portal. So you get all of that with Church Connect. It's hosted by ChurchTrac. You even get a free domain. It's a subdomain through ChurchTrac. Although you can use your own domain. You can bring your own URL into Church Connect and use that instead if you prefer. It's part of branding. Yes. It's another component of web branding on a website. So you can do that. You can go either way. But yes, it's all done in ChurchTrac. It's all hosted by us. It's all designed in your ChurchTrac account. But thank you very much for asking. PDAVEP asked, in the PYV, info goes to where? If email, then how do you redirect to a different email? And how do we embed the map in the footer?
Plan your visit page.
Oh, yes. Plan your visit.
So if you have a plan a visit page, this is a form card, essentially, Dave. So you should be able to see that content if you go to your form responses. And I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to click on it.
Yeah, don't click on that.
Yeah, just to protect the information that's coming in with churches, personal information from other churches. But you can see here at the top, there's a button called Form Responses that you can view those responses at. And that's for any one of your form cards. So it'll give you a breakdown of which card it is and who filled it out and the content that they filled it out with. The other option for having that content emailed to you is if you go to your cards and you click on the form card out of this list. Let me find one. Connect with us. And then you should see when you scroll down and you click, I believe it's under the form option here on the right side in that slider, you'll be able to choose what user is notified when that form is filled out with the information from the form.
Okay.
That should answer your question.
Thank you.
And then the other question was, how do you embed the map in the footer? I would highly suggest using one of our section templates. So you can do that by hovering the section, clicking add content, and you can click use a template. And then this will give you a whole slew of templates that you can use for your website.
Okay. Caitlin Williams asked, on the website you had pulled up, how did you do the multicolored line in the About Our Church section and the Service Time section? That's Michael.
That's a great question. So it's that's a little bit of custom CSS that I did, and I can pull it up really quickly to show you what she's talking about, so that we're not confused here. So you should see there is a little blue gradient, turning kind of blue going into green. That's a little bit of custom HTML CSS there. So feel free to use your custom CSS section that's in your Connect settings and using the code editor on your page if you'd like. But we're also adding templates. We're always updating ChurchTrac and Church Connect. We'd love to add templates. So this is something that we're progressing in as we grow and building these different features out. So we appreciate the suggestion and we'd love to add that to our list.
So Pat Hood asked, will we be using add-ons like Jetpack, Seed Prod, etc.?
So right now we don't have any integrations other than our own integration with our app. I'm not too familiar. Let me see if I can find that Jetpack Seed Prod. Yeah, we don't have any add-ons or like plugins for websites yet that you would find in something like WordPress. And we probably won't, just for security reasons. We want to protect your website and your account. And typically a lot of those plugins and options allow for JavaScript and cross-site scripting and other things that could leave you vulnerable to attacks from people that are malicious. So we want to protect you there on that.
David asked, are you going to address what was in the email invitation? David, thank you very much for bringing that up. We did overlook that. It mentioned the mobile check, why your phone view is more important than desktop. So just to iterate what that means, most people, like a huge portion of people visiting your website, are doing so on a mobile device. They're not doing it on a desktop. So as you're designing your website, you also need, like as a pro tip, you need to have your web builder open. You need to have a tab open of your church's website as you build it so that you can check your work. And you also need to have it up on your smartphone, just in your mobile browser, so that you can check to see what it looks like across both devices. That way it creates a first impression, a positive first impression in both contexts. You're capturing your entire potential audience by doing that. Most people are visiting your site on a mobile device. I think it's over 80% of all traffic is on all web traffic is on mobile devices. It's insane. So make sure that your church's website looks good on mobile. Our websites conform to whatever size screen someone is looking at. So it's all going to format well, but it's still worth checking. It's still worth having it up on your device just to make sure that the tagline you've added isn't taking up too much space. Right. The images are formatted and centered well. Just make sure that you are looking at your website through a mobile lens as you design it so that you can make sure it's making a first impression in that context as well.
Right, and you can have it open on your phone and also make your adjustments on your computer at the same time. Reload the page on your phone, make your adjustments on your builder as you need, and I would suggest that that's probably your best bet there.
Yeah, but thank you for bringing that up, David. I really appreciate that. We did forget. Thank you. Collins, you said, I've always wanted to give people more than they can digest. Obviously, I need a tattoo. Keep it simple, Saints, on the inside of my eyeballs. That's a new take on KISS. I've never heard that one. That's awesome. I love that. Keep it simple, Saints. Yeah, so simplicity will be your friend. It will make it less overwhelming for you to build your website. It's also less overwhelming for people to see it, digest it, and be invited into your church. Let's see. Franco said, I've just updated the background image in the hero section. It shows an iPhone Safari, but not in the Church Connect app. How can I make it visible in the Church Connect app? You can't. The app that we designed for Church Connect, we made cards the centerpiece of the app. So the cards that you build in Church Connect are going to be what's present or presented to people in the app. Your church's logo can be at the very top, but below that is just the cards. That's like the only thing that people see on that main screen in the app.
Right.
So you're not going to have that header section there, but you don't need the header section because the only people downloading the app are your members. You don't need to create that positive first impression of your church because the people downloading the app are already there. Right. So that's not necessary in the context of the smartphone app.
Yeah, Franco, if you really want, you could always add in like an info card if you really wanted to show off an image, or just to show your people, your congregants and your members, what's going on, just some events that you guys have going on. You can create an info card and then add that image to the top of the card, and then you can just have it show only on the app. So you choose visibility and then just have it show on the app from there.
Yeah. Sylvia asked, can you connect an existing URL, which we want, to remove to new URL? Yeah, if you have a URL or if you go purchase one, you can connect that with Church Connect and use just that. You get the free subdomain through Church Connect, but if you want to take that branding and to the next level and make it really your own and something that you own yourself, then yeah, you can purchase a URL, add it to Church Connect, and have that be the address for your website. Let's see. Knights of Columbus Council said, what do you mean I can bring my own web page to ChurchTrac? You'll host my domain? Well, yes. Like we are not the registrar for your domain, but you can purchase a domain and then use that in Church Connect. So you can fully replace your old website with Church Connect. Even if you have a website, you own that domain, you can use that domain in Church Connect. It's just that people will no longer see that old website when you do that, when you switch it over to Church Connect, because everybody will then see the Church Connect site when they go to that web address. Yeah,
you just can't bring over your website specifically. Like you can't port over the content from your website, like the HTML. I mean, there is kind of a way, but you really can't, not just fully port over your website if that's what you're asking, but you can use your domain.
Yeah. Belinda said, using Igniter, it's kind of frustrating that all we have is an open search bar. I feel like unless I can put the correct word in there, my choices are limited. Go to website and wants to sign up. Yeah, that honestly, Belinda, I understand that. Let's see here. It is definitely a fair critique. What we can do is what I recommend you do is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen in your ChurchTrac account, there's a little word that says feedback. If you click that and put that in, just let us know about that experience you're having. Our dev team will see that, and by having that feedback there in front of them, it makes it way more likely that they'll actually tackle that and improve that part of the website. So I highly recommend you submit that as feedback for us. Let's see. I hope I'm saying this right. Jana. I would like to add 2 buttons in a horizontal row, but when I try to add buttons, it adds them in a vertical format. Is that option available using HTML formatting? Sizing is limiting using templates. Yes, our templates only have 1 button. If you add a button, it's basically adding that as a secondary thing, like its own section, whether you're doing that in the hero section or a body section. Yeah. But you've done 2 buttons. So
I had an example. The example that I showed for New Life,
yes,
had that option. So you can do that, Jenna. You can add a button and it will stack it vertically. But like Matt said, with these feature suggestions, go ahead and submit a feedback, and our dev team will see that, and we'd be more than happy to address things. And ChurchTrac is always building. ChurchTrac is built on new suggestions from customers and from people that use our program. So we would love to hear from you on that, and our dev team would love to see your suggestion there.
Yeah. Pat asked, and this is a good question. This is the question for you. Input regarding the tenor of text: casual and formal, or business-like and formal, conversational or instructional. Yeah. What do you recommend? How would you approach it, I guess, is a better way to ask.
That's a great question. I would say it depends on who you're trying to reach. I think we had kind of talked about that earlier. We want to...
I'd say it comes down to your church's branding ultimately.
Yes, it comes down to your church's branding. Wes just popped in the door and gave us a great suggestion. Yes, it comes down to your church's branding. What are you guys trying to portray? Are you guys portraying to a younger crowd? I mean, most churches want to be multi-generational and grow, but if there's a certain group that you're trying to reach, go more casual, or informal if you want to put it that way. But you can also go business. It just depends on the crowd you're trying to reach, but it ultimately comes down to your branding as well. But I would suggest limiting the exact amount of content, and then choose from there what type of wording you want to use.
Collinsville Congregational Church asked, how can I see the results of work on the website on my phone if I haven't published it yet? Yeah, you will have to publish it to see it. However, depending on your situation, it's possible that, I'll just put it this way. If you haven't launched your church website yet to the public, like you haven't announced it yet and no one knows about it, then there's no risk of anyone seeing it. If you have launched it already, then it may just be that you have to publish it, check it, and if it's not what you need it to be, just immediately unpublish it and then rework it. So it may just be a little bit of back and forth. But again, it's not set in stone when you publish it. You can unpublish it and make whatever changes again in the future. So go about this however you want to and at whatever pace you need to. All right, Roxanne. We are continuing with our current website through Squarespace, and I'm building the Church Connect website, as I suspect will bring over our current domain. Is it wise to continue this way? Yes, that's the best way to do it. If you already have a website, just keep it up until you have the Church Connect site what you want it to be. Then you can do the whole Indiana Jones switcheroo. That's the image in my head every time I
swap it out.
Keep the old website for as long as it takes for you to get Church Connect up and running, and then you can shutter the old one and launch Church Connect in its place. All right, let's see here. Roxanne, we're wondering because you mentioned the phone app and it may look different. Yeah, so just continue building Church Connect. Check on the mobile device on your mobile browser, but also check the app. If you download the app, you can make sure that the cards are arranged properly. There's not a whole lot of formatting that needs to be done on the app. Our system does that for you. The only thing you really need to think through when it comes to the app is which cards appear there and in what order. That's like the primary thing you're thinking through. And then you also get that media tab. So that's another area of content you can add, but that's it. The app is actually really easy. It's the website that you have to really think through.
Yeah, we have another question here from True North Calvary Chapel. Is there a sandbox URL to visit the site prior to going live? So that is a great question. And this is another example of our development team really working and growing on the different products that we offer here. And that being Church Connect. Not yet, but we're always developing and we have things growing here. So this may be a feature that comes in the future. And we all work closely with the developers here. And so this is something that we've talked about and we'd love to implement. So just keep your eye out on your email and just new features that we drop. We would love, and we love the suggestion. We thank you for that.
Yeah.
So this is something that we'll bring to them and talk more about.
All right, that was the last question. If any of you think of questions in the future, we have a support team. You can reach out to us anytime. Those questions, if you have questions about building a website, those questions will probably come to us.
Yes.
So send them, and we'll be happy to help you out. But I hope you learned something today, and you're ready to hit the ground running and building a great website that creates a positive, beautiful first impression of your church so that more people will walk through the doors of your church, hear the good news preached, and join your body of Christ. Have a blessed day.